Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of season 7 of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bas Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. No, I appreciate all the love and support. Hope everybody's doing well out there, staying safe. If you're in America, if you're in America, it's like it's hot in most places.
Right.
um,
So
especially
sorry.
oh, you good, you good. Arizona, Texas, like even in the East Coast, like stay safe, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated. The sun is no joke. Summer is here, so just be careful. Especially shout out to all the social workers, that case managers that got to go out in the field seeing clients in this heat. I've done it for many years, and I already hated the summer as it is. So going out in 90 something degree heat was definitely not fun, especially in New York, dealing with the subways on top of that. So
Mhm.
not fun. So that being said, follow, you can follow the podcast on all social media platforms not the updated ones. I'm not on Spill. The podcast is not on Spill. It's not on Threads. I want to see how all that works. And there's
Right.
rumors that you delete Threads, you delete your IG account. No, I'm not
Oh,
trying to do that.
okay.
Supposedly. So
Okay.
I've seen some stuff already. But yeah, follow podcast on Instagram at the Social Work Rants Podcast. That's all one word. I'm still not scared of Elon. I'm trying to help Elon save Twitter. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Social Work Rants, even though he's messing it up a little bit.
Mhm.
Follow the podcast on Facebook, aka Meta. Type in the Social Work Rants Podcast. Hit that like button. Of course, YouTube. Hit that red subscribe button. And if you listen on the audio side, rank the podcast. Uh, Leave reviews on the podcast, or just however you listen and get your podcast and all the juicy info and awesome guests like I have currently. If you're not following this person, she's been killing it on all social media platforms, doing her thing. Nicki Sanders, MSW. How you doing today?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I am doing well. So, so sorry about the voice. I literally just started choking off nothing before we logged on. So hopefully we can make it through without me going into a coughing fit, and it's all good. But thank you. I'm so excited for the opportunity and love the work that you're doing, of course.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. And you're human too. We social workers are human, so if
Yes,
you choking on
absolutely.
on your own saliva, whatever tricks of water,
Right.
life happens.
Life happens, literally nothing.
And I'm too impatient to try to edit that out. So
Hey,
y'all
real
gonna
life,
listen to it.
real life. This is social work life. We get it done.
Exactly. For people who don't follow you or don't know of you, especially for the my out of the country viewers and listeners, let people know who you are, what you do in our challenging field of social work.
Awesome. Yes. So I am Nicki Sanders. You can find me on all those lovely places at Nicki Sander CEO, and Nicki is Nicki. I always say, when I was working with teams, they would talk about Nicki Minaj, and I'm like, I'm the original Nicki, right? And I'm sticking to that. So Nicki Sander CEO. I have done so much in social work, but right now I am running Nicki Sanders Leadership Consulting. I am a social work career coach, working very specifically with women of color in social work leadership, helping those women really up level in their career. So working on not just the job strategies, but the confidence, making sure that they are really owning all of their skills and experiences.
Mm,
I also do some leadership consulting, as the name says. So, working with organizations, businesses, and nonprofit organizations on developing their leaders, internship programs, employee relations. I'm really, really passionate about eliminating these toxic workplaces. Social workers are already giving and giving. And so we want organizations that appreciate and support us. But my really main mission is really to eliminate that narrow view of social work. So social work is so diverse, so
Yes.
expansive, and I am going to die on that hill, right? That is where we are. It is more than therapy. It is
Yes.
more than child welfare.
Yes.
And I'm just excited about all of the things and all of the diversity that the profession offers.
No, absolutely. We do so much work, and if you haven't checked out past episodes, I've interviewed other podcasters, authors, uh, ways to use your transferable skills into entrepreneurship. I've had real estate investors on the podcast. I've had
Absolutely.
financial experts on the podcast. I've had IG business guru that I follow, and she's about to make like $1 million this year in her business. So, and helping women along with their business. So there's a variety of different things. I had social workers who use group dynamics and teach people how to protect themselves with rifles in Texas. Like
Listen,
we do it all.
do
So
it all. Yep.
I'm a two-time published author, so we do it all.
Yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
um so yeah, how did you like get into doing that, like reaching out to these organizations, and how does that
Absolutely.
work?
Yeah, so I've been in nonprofit work for over 20 years. So the majority of my professional career in nonprofit work, I've been in leadership, I guess about 15 years, um, and really just passionate about program development, program management, and really people development. So I went into my MSW program knowing very clearly that I did not want to do anything clinical. I went in with the intention of doing program development and program management. And so after that, I started working with, actually before I got my MSW, I was working as a site coordinator and a case manager. Many of my clients were job hunting. And we had kind of got stuck in that, Clinton, Bush era of everybody back to work and the welfare to work and all of those things. And so I ended up working with my clients on resumes and cover letters and interview skills. Although there were government agencies that were being paid to help them, they weren't helping them. So I started doing that. And then I started working with teams. When I went into management, I kind of missed people, right? So I was doing a lot of that leadership. And so I started doing trainings. I started out doing training initially for teens in foster care, and then moved to doing training for mentors and volunteers that were working with those young people. And then when I moved into a different position after I got my MSW, I started an internship program there. And so from there, I really just kind of kept going into training. I ended up becoming an adjunct professor. So I've been a professor since 2014.
Okay.
And being able to teach and train and support people is kind of what I went into social work for, and what I do. And so I've just been able to find ways to continually do that. So growing from, working with teens to working with adults to then teaching and being an internship supervisor. And now I have those skills. And so really organizations are looking for someone to kind of help them, especially after the pandemic. So employee engagement. I've had really, really good experience with hiring. I'm great at hiring. So really good experience with hiring. And my staff would always stay on. They would stay on until they were able to go to kind of a different dream job. And so I just started taking those skills, and I was helping my friends and helping other colleagues. And I just decided to go all in and offer that to the greater community.
No, I like that. Like for now, now my throat
Contagious.
must be.
Right.
No, for newbie social workers or social work, MSW students who are still in school,
Yeah.
who listen to the podcast, or just graduated or a year or two in.
Mhm.
How can they, what skills that they learned or they already have, how could they use that in doing what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. So yeah, so I absolutely love working with students, again, undergraduate and graduate students. As a professor, as an internship supervisor, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is helping students understand that their degree and their skills really are transferable. So at the end of the day, social work skills are really people skills, right? So you
Mm.
have those people skills as human behavior skills. So what I find is that we kind of underestimate our skills and what we've
Yes,
done.
we do.
So taking inventory of really, literally all the things that you have done, and seeing how they translate into other areas. But what I help my students do is really know that they don't have to follow a prescribed path. So take the classes, of course, they're required classes, but have something in the end that works for you. So with my interns, I always have them do some kind of project from beginning to end. So it is there so that when when we start, I talk to them about what their skills are, what their interests are, and then match that to what the organization needs. But at the end of their time, they have taken ownership of something that they can then put on their resume and take that and go and look for a job, because every job wants experience, but they don't want to hire you to get experience, right? We
Exactly.
hear that all the time. So your internship, your volunteering, if you're a member of a church, a sorority, a fraternity, all of those things count towards your career experience. So don't discount anything. It all counts. You just have to figure out the right words and the right way to plug it into that job that you're looking for. But if you're still a student, and you're an intern, now is the time to talk to your internship supervisor about actually taking ownership of something that you can work throughout your time there.
Mm. But that's great advice, great info. Now, you know, you now I like to talk about like the inner workings of having you have your own small bit your own
Yeah.
business. How, like, how was that like for you? The tri- trials and tribulations
Yes.
day in day out, and
Day in and day out.
using your transferable skills like you mentioning, and starting your business
Yeah.
they teach us like go into private practice, but they don't teach nothing about
Nope.
business fundamentals or nothing like that.
Nothing.
So
Nothing.
how was that experience from
Um,
beginning to like where you're at currently?
yeah. So actually, that's a great question because I've been through several iterations of my business, right?
I'm going
Um,
through one right now.
right. So in the beginning, I really missed working with teams. I was going into grad school, I was in leadership, and I was missing that direct service. So I started going back and working with teams, and reaching out. I started volunteering initially. And once I was volunteering, I started getting asked to do more things. I started seeing different challenges that young people were going through, not just in the agency I was working with, but in other agencies that we were partnering with. Um, and then as I continued to do a little bit of that, then people say, oh, what you're teaching is great for adults. Adults don't know that, right? So then I moved into doing the teaching and training for adults. Then I moved into, right, helping college students to really get the skills and things that they needed to graduate and graduate with a career plan. And then I kind of moved into leadership. And so what I love is that I get to choose, right? That was always the thing, is that I get to choose. Um, and we don't have to be stuck to one area. So I went into social work initially to work with teen moms in foster care. And I've done that, right? I did that in several different ways. I did home visits, I did residential, I did school-based programs, but I stuck with that population, even as that population started to grow. So then I started working with them when they were going into college and when they were getting jobs. And so I have my biggest challenge right, in the beginning was running a business with the same nonprofit mindset that we were using in our jobs, right? So for the first maybe 8 years or so, I was still working full time and running the business part time. And so if I could go back to things that I would change, would really be thinking about the business as a business and not as a nonprofit in the beginning, paying too much attention to my employer, right? So there were opportunities that I turned down to speak, teach, train, because I wanted to make sure that there was no way that it could ever be said that there was a conflict of interest. So I was overly cautious, right? And so we kind of missed out on things. And then as I grew and changed, Twitter, Instagram, all of those things came up. So it is me really just being who I am authentically. And as I learn and grow and change, I've allowed my business to do the same. And then right now I'm like, yeah, so what's next? We'll see, right? It's always like, what's next? We'll see. I am also working right now with, actually 2 organizations, part-time. So very part-time, managing an internship program for an environmental organization, which I absolutely love. And for those who are interested in eco-social work, there's so much that you can do around eco-social work. It was always a passion, but not something I had pursued. And so now I get to do that and learn while I'm also supporting these young people, high school and college students who are also interested in environmental issues and public health and all of those things. So staying open, I think, is what helped me. I think in the beginning, what was most challenging is trying to fit myself in a box. And that kind of stifled my growth in the beginning a little bit longer than it needed to.
Gotcha. Well, what exactly is environmental social work? For those
You
who
know
don't know.
what? Awesome. So I have several definitions, right? So we've called it environmental social work, eco-social work, green social work. For me, my area of interest is really around agriculture and food security, but also in what we are doing to save the environment. So it's not just policy and environmental things, although that is a part of it. Looking at our food system, looking at public health, although public health social work is its own thing. So what I really care about is getting healthy food into communities that may not normally have access to fresh, healthy food. And we know about food deserts and all of those things. But also those workforce development skills, the communication, the team building, there are, because we're working on a farm, right? So I'm outside in this 90-degree heat, on a farm with teenagers twice a week. And so they're learning communication skills, they're learning about plants, they're learning, all these things, but I'm actually learning too. So we're looking at sustainability. Sustainability is a part of it as well. So it really is so open. And once I started doing research, there are very few social workers who kind of claim eco-social work as their area of expertise. So it really is a wide open field for anyone who's interested in agriculture, in our food supply system, in the environment, in climate change, in green building, right? All of those things fit into eco or green social work, and the money is there, right? We're looking at it, like the money is moving in that direction. So I would encourage anyone who has a little bit of interest to go ahead and check it out because it's wide open right now.
Right. Even from a policy perspective, I know especially at least 2016 has been talk of the Green New Deal, and there's already talk again about trying to push that again. So
we're looking at hybrid and electric cars.
Yeah, the electric cars are already here, and more to come. So and even like stuff like there's even money in terms of just investing in farmland and farm, because it's not, people are these developers going into like housing, they're
Yep,
paying off these farmers for the land, and then it
of
just
course.
building up all these single family homes, townhomes. This is big out here. It was big
The
before
green,
I moved to Delaware, and I still see it, currently. So it's like kind of interesting to see, like, go to the farmland, and then, oh, this used to be farms, and it's just all
yep,
these houses and just roads, and it's
yep,
just people moving in. And you mentioned like these food deserts. No, where
yep,
I'm originally from, like try to find some healthy food options is not not
right,
easy, or they have these like uh farm market days that you got to go to a
yes,
specific place and buy fresh fruit and vegetables, but it's still not enough, and especially for us and black and brown folks that
yep,
our cultural foods or and our spices or traditional spices is filled with
yep,
a lot of sodium and salt and stuff, and that. And I know many places or many people were trying to do like vegan options, and
yep,
all the same foods that we eat. So that's on the come up too. So it's definitely something that's
yep.
important and needed, and that's interesting. I don't think I've heard it. No, you
Yeah,
mentioned public health, and what I do with my 9 to 5 is considered under the public health. But in
right.
terms of food, no, we still Flint, Michigan still don't have clean water,
Clean
and like
water, right?
no, Jackson, Mississippi got issues with their water.
Yep,
Even the U.S. in general really got issues
yep,
with their water. So it's it's
yeah,
definitely a health issue that's affecting everybody. That doesn't really get talked about, and the government likes to keep it hush hush.
absolutely.
So,
But I mean, the food we eat is
mm,
help us live or help us die, right? Truthfully.
yes.
But even when we look and think about housing, right? And the areas I've lived in are definitely being gentrified right now. So that's a whole different, issue when we look at housing and affordable housing or lack thereof. Um, but even thinking about environmental social work, green social work, and housing. So there are people right now who are looking at building communities on farm land so they can live sustainably, but also have that community, so that they can grow their own food, or at least some of it, and learn those skills so that they have community and people aren't isolated. Looking at affordable housing, where some of the places have tiny houses and people can, move into those tiny homes. So there's so many ways that you can use your social work degree. Um, and if you have, program development, program management experience, definitely. If you have policy experience, definitely. But if you're just interested in helping people improve their quality of life in general, I think it's definitely something that's worth exploring for sure.
Yeah, tiny homes. I first heard of tiny homes like 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I met like an investor doing a whole big community of tiny homes
Yep,
in Georgia. So and doing very very well for himself. So that, and I see more and more about tiny
yep,
homes recently. So I mean, that's one way for affordability in terms of housing, because the
yep.
housing in America is
Insane.
insane to say the
Insane.
least. And
Insane.
it's been like that for a
Yes.
while. So I wanted, you mentioned COVID for a hot second.
Hmm.
I like to ask my guests, how was COVID, for you? How was not only like individual as Nicki the
Mhm.
person, but
Yeah.
also running your business, and you mentioned having working. Like, how was all that experience for you?
Yeah. So that was just it was a blur, but it was also a transition, right? We would love to forget. We just can't forget. So right in 2019, the end of 2019 is when I left my full-time job. I had been in that job for 11 years. Um, and so I was still teaching as an adjunct, running my business. And, March, I went to the Millennial Social Work Conference, came back, and the world shut down, right? And so I was still thinking about my business and saying, well, this is okay. I'm still teaching. I'm still doing these things. And then I just decided that that was not the time that I wanted to, there were just too many things happening in my head. And so I decided to actually go back to work. And so I started a full-time job in June of 2020. We were remote for a year. And then we went back out into community looking at public health. It was a public health organization. And I stayed there for 2 years until the end of last year. And then I decided, I don't want to do that anymore, right? And so now I get to like do something else. And so I feel like COVID for me personally was like hibernating, right? Like I feel like I kind of went into a cocoon. And so in some ways, I needed that job to kind of have something to keep looking forward to instead of worrying about, oh my gosh, where are people going to have enough money to pay me? And what, I did not want to have that kind of anxiety,
right?
Because it was very anxiety for producing for me as an individual. And so I did not want to have that level of anxiety. And so I really started to shift a little bit, during that too, saying we can't go back to business as usual. We can't pretend that those 2 years didn't happen. And for those of us who, whether we were working full time or part time, or whether we were running businesses, we all needed a break. But we also needed to come together and support each other. And so the shift kind of from that really turned into part of my work is really being intentional about self-care and helping others to pay attention to self-care. And for me, that is being outside in nature. And so one of the reasons that I did leave that position, so last March, and there are different times of the year when I get this totally in reflection mode. So my birthday's in April. So March is like, New Year, what are you going to do? And I made the decision that I just really didn't want to work in the office in the fall. I didn't want to be in the office. I wanted to be outside. More importantly, I wanted to help local farmers and use my macro social work skills, my program development skills to help local farmers. Because I wanted to live on a farm since I was a little girl, right? So that was very much something that was just kind of calling me. And so then I found this organization through a referral, right? I put it out there to my network and I was like, this is what I want. And they said, hey, have you tried this place or heard of this place? And I'm like, no, I've never heard of it. And then at the same time, I had been commuting. I'm in Maryland. I've been commuting in DC. And I just didn't want to do that hour commute anymore. It was just too much. And I didn't like commuting anyway, but after the pandemic, I was like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we doing this? And so I made the decision that I also wanted to work close to home. And so what I've been able to do is this farm, which I had no clue was there, is about 6 minutes from my house, which I love.
Nice.
And although I'm leaving the school where I've been teaching at since 2014 that I absolutely love, and it's where I got my bachelor's degree, I'm now going to be teaching at the school that's 10 minutes from my house. And so setting that intention and saying, I can't go back to business as usual. Like I can't pretend like those 2 years didn't happen. Right, and now I have to prioritize me if I'm going to help anybody else. And so in my own commitment to operate in integrity, I just needed to make those changes if I was going to encourage anybody else to do it.
No, I love it. Good for you. Especially an hour commute from Maryland, depending where Maryland to DC is not fun.
No.
Yeah, speaking from experience, driving from Delaware when I go down to DC. So.
Yes.
And I still need therapy going over that Chesapeake Bridge.
That bridge.
That's a scary ass bridge.
Yes, it is. That bridge. Yes, it is. I try to avoid it as much as I can, maybe a couple of times out of the year, but not every day. Not even every week.
And it's worse going towards Delaware than it is going to DC. Yes. I was like, oh my God.
Yes, it's nerve-wracking for sure. That's why they had those people over there to drive you across, because it is nerve-wracking.
Dear Lord.
Definitely.
Oh man, no. Shout out to everybody. I've been meeting a lot of social workers from Maryland, and
Okay.
so and then just driving to DC, just see the monuments or whatever.
Right.
Just did a social work conference not too long ago out there. So shout out to Millennial Social Work Conference 2024. That's definitely one of my goals to go there. I said that
Perfect.
for this year, like
Yes,
that didn't work out. So definitely next year, I definitely want to go.
definitely. I definitely left feeling like social work is in good hands. I am far from a millennial, right?
So
So
am
I
I.
definitely, I definitely left feeling like, oh, social work is in good hands. They are different. They're not like us where we were just like, oh, we just gonna take everything. They're like, no, I want this and I want that. I'm like, yes. So I love that they are speaking up and being intentional and saying, I'm going to take care of me. And I think social work is in good hands. I felt like a, auntie for sure. but, but it was good.
Yeah, I did it virtual. It was last year. So I did it virtually. So
Okay.
it was still. I definitely gained a lot. I was like, I need to go. And then I saw the videos of like everybody swag surfing this year. The
Yes, yes.
Actually, I didn't go because I went to Dallas. I was going to go this year,
Okay.
and I ended up doing a speaking engagement in Dallas. So
That's
that's why
awesome.
I didn't go. It
Okay.
ended up being the same weekend for
Okay.
the Millennial Conference. So I was
Yeah.
like, this year I'm going this year. Like
Yes.
I met Erica, the organizer. It was like last
Yes.
year, 2 years ago, and it was like that's on my bucket list to go, and I was going to
Yeah.
go, and then the opportunity Dallas came up with the Latinx social work book. I was like,
Awesome.
I'm going to Dallas.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, so definitely 2024 on the go. I'm actually going to Atlanta in August
Okay.
for uh it's like an investing financial conference.
Awesome. Yeah, you making it work.
Yeah. So yeah, especially that's what I'm trying to transition the business
Okay.
into. So getting some more financial education so I could teach the masses.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I definitely am. My goal is to have an intergenerational community. I've always said I wanted to live on a farmland, but to have an intergenerational community and really focus on young people who teen moms in foster care. That really was the reason I went into social work, but also young adults who've aged out of the foster care system. Um, and then those senior citizens who, we need to support them too. So
No,
that's definitely my
absolutely.
goal.
Yeah, I feel like aging out of the foster care system and the seniors,
Mm-hmm.
sure I'm still caring for one of my from my dad. So
Yeah.
and I'm always advocating and working with seniors during
Yes.
COVID.
Yep.
So I'm always advocating for the seniors and always, try to help them in some kind of way. And like all these policies that these Republicans are doing are like hurting the seniors. So
Yes,
it's like
but it's generational. I'm like,
we're living longer and we cutting all want to
yes,
cut Social Security or
yep,
Medicare and don't want Medicare for all. And then it's like,
yep.
increasing prices on medications and it's like
And food, you
food,
gotta
yeah,
choose between food and
yeah,
medication. It's insane.
food and rent and
Yeah.
or mortgage. So it's really insane what's happening currently. Just in terms of political landscape that we're currently
Mhm.
in, and we having social workers still like who claim they're social workers going against the grain, and it's a crazy time we live in.
It's a
That's all I
crazy
can say.
time. It's a crazy time, but we're up to the
We're making it
challenge.
work. Yeah.
We have to be. We can't stop now.
No, we really can. It's just keep fighting and
Yes.
fight the good fight, and well, hopefully wake up the next day, keep fighting, we do
And
the
do it
same
again.
thing, do it again. So
Yeah.
it's just an interesting time that we live in, and I was like, is this what the 50s and 60s were like a little bit? Like,
Yeah, it's like eerily, I don't even know how to describe it. Sometimes,
without our leaders being killed, I mean, we still getting our people still being killed, but I'm talking about, like,
yes,
our, like, national leaders and
right.
political figures and stuff.
Yeah.
Besides that, but this is,
It definitely feels like we are turning back the hands of time and regressing for sure.
it's unfortunate, and I hope, you mentioned, schools, and I hope these grad schools are really having these in-depth conversations and really educating, and
Yeah,
because, we always producing social workers. A new class come out every year.
every
Doesn't matter
year.
where you go, and it's like, you mentioned the rural area farmland. There's a lot of farmland, in Maryland and in Delaware, and that's
Yeah.
something that interesting, like, to get more perspective. How does that work in terms of, like,
Mm-hmm.
social work, and, like, you got the rural area farmlands, and also, like,
Yeah.
internet deserts, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you, like, navigate, help clients out, and, they live on a
Yep.
farm. Like, what are you gonna do? What do you do
Yes.
for them?
And there's no
So,
Wi-Fi, right? Yes.
yes,
There's
so
no
it's
Wi-Fi. The doctor's office is, however far
miles
away.
away.
No
Exactly.
buses. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's definitely interesting, dynamic, to say the least. So, uh, where where can people, well, say where can people find you on social?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is Nicki Sander CEO. I'm still on Twitter. I used to call it, I hope social work Twitter, doesn't die and we kind of come back. That was the place that was my favorite in terms of connecting with social workers and really getting the message out. So I
Mm,
hope that we can kind of get back to that. Um, on LinkedIn, you can find me at Nicki Sanders MSW. And then my website is nikkisanders.com.
awesome. One last question in terms of, business for you. Like I know, there's a lot of awesome, incredible social workers that do, different types of coaching, or kind
Right.
of like similar coaching. Like, what that, like, stands out, like, for you in terms of,
Yeah.
business, or do you see it as, like, competition, or there's
Oh,
so
no,
many
no, no.
social workers out there
Yeah.
that you get some, I get some, we all
Oh,
gonna make some
definitely.
money.
No, absolutely. There is enough for all of us. The truth is, there are people that I may appeal to and people that someone else may appeal to. But the need is great and the need is there. And just like social workers in our jobs, in our 9 to 5s, no one organization can serve everybody. No one social work coach can serve everybody. And although we're doing things that are similar, our methodology may be different, our reasoning may be different. So I definitely don't look at anyone as competition. I definitely am, really focusing on women of color and women of color in leadership because that has been, part of me really kind of dimming my light in the beginning and
Mm,
really kind of being behind the scenes and making everybody else look great. Um, and then having that, like, do I say this? Do I speak up? That kind of thing.
yeah.
But then also being the one that everybody was coming to get things done. Um, and so the women who tend to work with me in terms of career coaching are those women who are high performing. They're the go-getters, they're getting things done. But there's something about, them that they don't always feel confident. They oftentimes are discounting their skills and experiences, and have made a habit, a pattern of really dimming their light and helping other people shine and being in the background. So what I do, and the reason I talk about empowerment is because I want my clients to definitely own their brilliance. Like, they're smart,
Mm,
they've done amazing things, they have all the credentials, and just haven't walked in their awesomeness yet. And so that is what we work on long before we get to the resumes and the cover letters. Because I can give you all the strategies, but if you
mm,
don't believe in it or you don't trust yourself to do
mm,
it, it's
mm,
it's really pointless. So definitely there is room for us all. And I think that we all need to be connected and do what we do and do what we do well. And then we'll see the ripple effects, and we'll see how we're all collectively changing the world. One of my phrases is sisterhood is self-care. And so I say that all the time. Like sisterhood is self-care for me. I love being able to support and empower, other women, especially women of color, Black and brown women, who don't get celebrated in other places,
Yes, exactly.
a lot of the time. And we are often told we're being too much. We're doing too much, right? I want you to do it all, right? Keep being too much. So definitely competition doesn't even enter my mind, right? What's for you is for you, what's for me is for me, and we can just get it done together.
No, I like that, and I purposely said competition because there's so much money to still be made. It doesn't, you're not going to be for everybody. Not everybody's going to be for you, and it's just a matter of. Now I'm still learning, try to, my transferable skills and into other things, and sometimes throw stuff against the wall, like whatever sticks. Or this is what we're gonna do, and try to do it, and trying to learn as we go. So I really like that. I know I said one last question, but you mentioned cover letters.
Yeah,
and I know especially on LinkedIn, there's always this debate on whether cover letters are still like worth doing. I know for myself, with all the different job changes that I've had, like won't necessarily apply for a job because they ask for a cover letter. So I'm like, why?
It's so annoying. It really is annoying. So
is it needed in 2023?
So I don't think it's needed. I think that a lot of companies, well, let me say this. If they ask for it, you should provide it. Let me say that, right? You get to make the decision whether that is a company you want to apply to or not. But if you decide to apply and they ask for it, yes, because otherwise your application will be thrown out. Do I think it is redundant? Yes. Do I think it's necessary? No. That and it's so annoying when you upload your resume and then they tell you to complete an application.
Yes.
Again, right? It's redundant. And why are we doing this? And so it's just making it harder for people to actually apply because we get frustrated. We're like, I'm just not doing it. And so truthfully, unless it's something a job like you really, really want, I say save your energy and apply to the things that you really want and really support you. Don't be filling out 30, cover letters.
Because you're gonna mess up.
Right. Be intentional, be specific, go after the job that you want. And if they ask for it and you choose to apply, definitely do it. But what do you learn from it? Nothing, because you could pay me to do it for you, right?
Right. You could just tell my experience based on the resume. Like what?
Right.
For the record, I'm not looking, but like I'm just saying for like I'm a historical job hopper, and I'm proud of it, even though it's kicking me in the rear end to apply for the PSLF because
okay.
But
well, listen, grateful for that, right? Grateful for that.
Yes.
I think everybody's loan should be forgiven, but that's just my rant. So
I've done a few rants on the podcast about it. So this is definitely the last question. Is there such a thing as landing your dream job in social work?
So you know what? Yes, I would say yes, but I would say yes and be open to that changing. It may be your dream job in the beginning, right? And some people say, like, I don't dream about labor. Well, I don't necessarily dream about labor. But the truth is, if I became a billionaire tomorrow, I would still do something that is related to helping people in social work and all those things. I may just social work differently. So I think that there is the right now job. The thing that I went into social work very specifically for, to support teen moms in foster care and residential programs. I'm glad I did it, but I realized as soon as I did it, it was not for me. I'm glad I had that experience. I learned it was my dream job in my head. It was not my dream job in reality. And I did it for about 11 months and decided I was never doing residential again. And so I think it changes. The job that was my longest job, I was there for 11 years. I left right before, in 2019. It was my dream job when I got my MSW. It actually is the only job that I applied for after I got my MSW. And it was my dream job and I loved it. But I needed to leave. It was 11 years. I was burnt out. And when we got into the pandemic, I realized how much more taxing, how much more I would not have wanted to have that position during the pandemic. The responsibilities, the working with the young people. I don't know how I would have gone through the pandemic if I was still in that role, because I think it would have impacted me in such a different way. Being responsible for 600 children and where are they and are they in school? So although it was my dream job when I got my MSW, it definitely wasn't my dream job 11 years later. And during the pandemic, I was just grateful it wasn't my job at all. So yeah.
And yeah, I could definitely see that, working in school social work in 2020, even though a lot of the stuff was, virtual and occasional school visits, I try to avoid going to school
Right.
at all costs if I could. Any home visits was like, meet me in the foyer or I'll meet you. Luckily, I worked in the suburbs, so it's like, okay, meet you outside.
Right.
Either outside or like outside your garage. You got your garage door open and just talking like in the air. So
in the air. Yep.
But yeah, it was not. And then once the kids came back the first year, it was not fun at all.
It was, we opened up. I had switched jobs by then, and so we came back when the children were, parents were allowed to send their children back, but everybody wasn't back. They were the most well-behaved children I had ever seen in my life. I don't know if it was because it was only a quarter of them in the school. I don't know what was happening. I don't know if they were just happy to be outside. They were the most well-behaved children I had ever seen in my life. But then when everybody came back, I was like, but are we really ready to support them? Like, we can't ignore what they've just gone through, losing family members, fear, violence in the community, education, right? Just losing that academics during the year, social skills. And so I just was like, we can't act like this didn't happen. They need more than we're willing to give them. We can't go back to business as usual.
Did you see business as usual? Because
I saw try to do business as usual. It didn't work, but I saw them try to do business as usual.
Yeah, it was. I didn't know how it was before COVID, but it definitely seemed like they're not handling these kids coming in with all these challenges.
With all that trauma. No,
not at all. They try to do regular school things and lack of discipline stuff, and it was like, no.
The teachers were exhausted. The kids were exhausted. It was just, it was bad. And I'm hoping that we get back on track. As someone who has been kind of in school-based programs, for 15 years or so, I was hoping that we would take that opportunity to really blow up our education system that we've had since, forever, and give kids something different, but that didn't happen.
No. Unfortunately, no, that didn't happen, and it's like little to no talk of like social emotional learning stuff, like and at least from like a federal policy level.
Not at all. Right.
I know school districts here and there talk about it. At least in Delaware, that's definitely been like a big push, regarding that, like from last year or this past school year, and like moving forward, going into this upcoming school year. There's been a lot of talk and initiatives and stuff. But like policy from federal policy, no,
No,
they've been just
no.
student loan stuff, and that's it.
Yep, that's it. But we'll still be there for them,
Exactly.
We'll still be there and we'll be fighting for them, and we'll keep showing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to all the school social workers and
Shout
counselors.
out to you.
Yes.
Yes.
As a retired school social worker, I'll do residents and school social worker. Then
No.
I
Yeah.
do anything. do do almost anything else. I go back in the 90-degree heat and do home visits
Listen, this 90
compared to
degree heat,
school social work.
I was like, oh, it's 90 degrees in July and we're outside digging in the dirt. I didn't think this through. I didn't think this through. I would say my heart is full, but my body was tired.
Yes. I can only imagine.
Yes.
On that note, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk soon.
I love it. Thank you. Bye.